Hey guys, so this is another Q&A video, but it's actually going to be one sort of long question because it's a question we get asked a lot. And it's, how can I train my bird, or how can I get my bird to trust me more? And there's a lot of steps that we can sort of present and advise, recommend to you guys that'll hopefully make the training of your bird and getting them to trust you a little bit easier. The first thing is to take it slow and be patient with your bird. It could take them a little while to warm up to you, so definitely be patient. And it could start with literally sitting next to their cage for a day or two, just so that they get used to your presence. Some people will say you should stay away from them, keep them in quiet, and don't talk to them or acknowledge them for 2 weeks or something like that. That hasn't been our experience. But if you don't have a young bird, then you may want to give it a day or so just to have their presence around. With us, with Pillow and with Pearl, though Pearl was hand raised, we just sort of jumped right into it and that was fine. Which leads to the second step, which is to read your birds. And what I mean by that is pay attention to the birds. They don't usually bite without giving you a sign. So if the bird is running away from you, squawking, trying to get away from you in the cage, don't keep trying to stick your hand and trying to get them to step up. You definitely have to read them and get them comfortable with you before you try to engage them in a serious physical way. So take your time, read them, and if they're trying to stay away from you, respect that. The more you respect their boundaries, the more you're showing you understand them, the more likely they are to trust you. Another way that we found that helps calm the birds or get them in a more playful mood is to have sound. And that could be music, or what we found actually even better is to play a YouTube video with other birds chirping. Because in the wild, when it's quiet, that's generally a warning sign or a sign of danger, so that when things go quiet all of a sudden, it's potentially a threat. When there's no threat, birds are chirping, there's noise, there's sound, and they tend to be less guarded at that point. So if you have the ability to put some bird noises on, or some music, some calm music, or something like that, you're more likely to get them a little bit calmer. Another tip is to get them less fearful of your hands. Birds are inherently more fearful of your hands because you can reach out. That's what you're sending to them to get them to step up. That's what they think you might grab them, you can hit them. So these are things that they tend to be more fearful of hands than anything else. So a good way to get your birds to be less fearful of your hands is to hand feed them. Now, how do you do that to a bird who's actually very fearful of your hands? What we found works, especially if your bird loves millet like ours do, is get a long string of millet and start to stick it in towards them. And it helps if you do this at a point where they're a little more hungry, like you haven't changed their food dish just yet. It may take a couple times before they actually start nibbling on it. But once they start nibbling on it, you let them eat. And then the next day you try it with a little bit less, a little smaller piece of millet, and do it again. And then a little smaller piece of millet, and do it again, until the millet is literally this big and you're pinching it and you're holding it up to them and they're nibbling it right from your fingers. And then you can try it again with the millet in your hand, where you're showing them your hands are safe. So you can get them in your hand, eating millet from your hand. And at that point, I think you can begin the training process of stepping up. But getting them used to your hands and not fearful of your hands is an important step, because that's what you're going to be using to engage them through. The last step that we advise, and this is an important one, it can be difficult sometimes if they're scared of you, if they're biting you, you can get frustrated. They can pick up on signs. If you're very frustrated, even if you're not yelling directly at them, they can pick it up. So if you are frustrated, you shouldn't show it. You should definitely use a calm voice, try to be nice to them as much as you can, even if it's a little frustrating, because they won't trust you. Give it some time, but always try to be positive, always try to be calm when you're interacting with your birds, because they can see it, they can pick up on it, they're very observant. Don't hit your birds ever, don't yell at them, because this will just make them more and more afraid of you. Hopefully this helped in some way or will help you in terms of training and taming your birds. If you have other questions, please leave them in the comments below and we'll try to answer those as well. Maybe in a future video. Thanks.